Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the regular board meeting together this morning, Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. I'm very pleased that we're back in the boardroom all together so we can see everyone's faces. I'd like to welcome the public and all your service, as I know those are public servants out there as well. So at any rate, with that, we will begin our meeting. And good morning, Jesse, and all those that are coming in on Zoom. So at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and should we do a roll call, or I'll just begin with the pledge. Great, so let's all rise and join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we do the roll call? Should we do a roll call?
We should. We do not have Director Murphy on at this time.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go ahead and do the roll call.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, we'll start off. Director Rayland.
Here.
Director Boatwright. Here. Director Kearns.
Here.
Director Murphy.
Not present.
Not present. And Director Regan.
Here.
Okay, we have four directors present.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'd like to open this up to welcoming the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board related to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. So at this time, is there any member of the public that would like to address the board? Corey, is there anyone from our audience?
Not at the moment. It's indicated no.
Okay, thank you. Then that will conclude. Excuse me?
Hi, I'm going to interrupt for a second. This is Lisa Murphy. I'm calling in by the phone. The Zoom link is not working.
Would you like us to resend it to you, Director Murphy?
Say that again?
Would you like us to resend you the link?
Well, I'm doing the one on the board agenda, and
Yeah,
it's
we
not
have
working.
11 participants on.
Say that again?
We currently have 11 participants on the Zoom meeting, and you've called in, so the link should work. I could resend it if you like.
Sure. I've been trying it for about 10 minutes, and I can't get it to work.
Okay, I'll resend it to you in just one moment.
Is Director Murphy able to participate right now via the phone, or should we pause?
She's on the phone if you'd like to continue.
Director Murphy, can you hear us?
Not very well. That's why I keep asking you to repeat.
Well, the problem might be on your end too. Well, let's continue with the consent calendar.
Okay.
So I'd like to pull the item on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. The item has been pulled by Director Murphy. and that is the minutes of the regular board meeting. Okay, so go ahead, Murphy.
The part that's written, and let me. The consent calendar, the portion, and let me just bring it up real quick, the portion that is the minutes from the last meeting where it is, I just lost it. Hold on one second. Give me just a second. Sorry. It's been frustrating to not be able to get on the Zoom. So where it says, okay. All right, it is discussion item 6, discussion of strategic planning option. And
Yes.
in this, it says there was a consensus of the board was to pull the board for an available date to hold a board workshop to review the current strategic plan. So we had a discussion in the meeting, and I know that both Director Boatwright and myself, and I thought some of the other directors agreed with that this is not an appropriate time to be looking at the strategic plan, that we need to wait until after we clear things up about the PG&E acquisition, and then that would be the appropriate time to engage with perhaps deciding to do a workshop on the strategic plan. And this says, this makes it sound like we agreed to do that right away, and that is not something that I agreed to.
Okay, what we would have to do is to go back to the record, the recording, and take a look
Correct.
at a listen, and I take it you did that?
Did Melissa do that? I would guess that that's what I'm asking her to do now.
Okay, so,
President Balin, I want to make sure we're not confused about something. So the direction wasn't to do a full-blown strategic planning session, a new one. It was just to give an update of the existing strategic plan. Director Murphy, is that clear, or is it, are you?
So this says, this is it written in the notes. It says the consensus of the board was to pull the board for an available date to hold a board workshop to review the current strategic plan. I don't believe that that is what happened in the meeting. We had a discussion. I brought up a point. I believe other directors agreed with that point, which was that the strategic plan was just completed in 2020, which was just 2 years ago, and we have a lot of stuff that's changing in the district over the next couple of years, potentially, with the possibility of the PG&E acquisition and what all that would mean. And so that would be a more appropriate time to readdress this. But no, I don't think we had a consensus that we needed to set a time for a workshop. That isn't.
Director Murphy,
that isn't.
Your point is well taken, and I think that we can work on this item with Melissa. I understood it to be that we were just going to review the existing. I thought the board really was very clear that they didn't want to start a whole new deal, that they just wanted to review it and get everybody familiar with it. So whether we actually took a poll for an available date, we'll go back, we can hold this out. This is not a big deal. Go back, it's been recorded.
Yeah, I just don't think it's correct. I don't think what's
on.
written in the minutes is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other item on the agenda? So we will not approve these minutes this time. We'll go back and rework them and bring them again to the next meeting.
Right. So we're not approving the minutes at this point. We'll see the minutes again before we approve them. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So that concludes the consent calendar. We will take a second look at those. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Director Murphy. And we will now move to regular business. And this is a public hearing, so I have special instructions here. So Melissa, would you please read that item?
Okay, item number 2, public hearing to review new mapping of proposed district-based election boundaries of the electoral districts.
Thank you. This is the time and place for a public hearing to consider the proposal to establish 5 district boundaries for district-based elections of members of the board of directors. Would you like to add anything, staff, and Don?
Well, Jesse, are you going to,
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd be happy to. As it's briefly outlined in the staff report for this item, this is the third of 4 required, a minimum of 4 required public hearings to consider the change of moving from at-large elections to district-based elections. The district has already held its first 2 hearings at which the board discussed the possible changes, how maps may be drawn, and things related to just how it may be conducted, how the change may occur. The purpose of this 3rd hearing is to discuss the draft maps that have now been drawn and that have been publicly available for a couple of weeks now. They've been published on the TUD website, and they are also, I believe there was also notice of the availability of the maps published in the local newspaper to give the public the opportunity to see where these boundaries may be drawn. And there are several different choices. Ultimately, Mr. Rexroad will discuss how those maps were drawn, but ultimately, one of the key considerations in drawing the maps is that each geographic district, each division must have roughly the same population. And then other considerations are also factored in, but that's one of the primary considerations. And those maps have now been published. They have been available for public review. And this is the first meeting at which first hearing at which the board will have the opportunity to discuss those draft maps. And one of the outcomes of this meeting is whether or not the board prefers one map over another. And if it does prefer one map over another, then that map will be proposed to be adopted at the 4th and final hearing, to be scheduled at the next district meeting. It could be the one early May or late May, depending on how much, or it's possible that the board may not prefer one map, in which case the board can have its 4th hearing to discuss the draft maps and then ultimately perhaps adopt a new map at a subsequent 5th hearing. But the board cannot adopt a map until at least the 4th hearing. So I hope that it was clear, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If there aren't any questions, I know that Mr. Rexroad has a presentation plan for the board.
Thank you, Jesse. Let me ask the board if there's questions for you. Does any board member have any questions for Jesse? Okay, I have one, Jesse, and that is, I was looking at other water districts they are in parallel with us, going through the same process, basically the same timeline. I noticed that some of the alternatives were hybridized that the public actually came forth with their own maps. And so that sounds like that could be a possibility as we continue this review process, that this board here, we could actually take one that we all agree with, let's say, and then start working with it and hybridizing, and the public then is welcome to come forward with their own ideas as well. And how would they get that information to us then?
Yes, you are correct. That's a very reason why these hearings are scheduled like this, is to receive public input. The board Any board, any district considering this change is required to consider suggestions by the public on how these lines may be drawn. The lines that have been drawn by Mr. Rexroad are simply draft. They're simply suggestions. And if the public would like to make changes, or if the board would like to make changes within certain limits, then now is the time to hear that. As far as the public's opportunity to do that, these maps, the draft maps, have been available on the public website. Any written comments may be submitted by the public at this meeting. The public may make oral comments at this meeting, and the board is going to have another chance to make comments at the fourth and final hearing before any final map is adopted. So I guess there are what I would consider, President Balin, ample opportunity for the board to receive public input at this hearing, both orally and in writing.
Thank you.
Director Murphy does have her hand up for a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Director Murphy.
Goodness gracious. So I believe that yesterday, the overlay was added that has the uses and users of TUD on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yesterday, I asked Max Rexroad and Eric to work together to overlay our customer service either above or on it, so you can view that, but only in the Google Maps can you see that.
Only in the Google Maps version. Okay, very good. And did that get announced to the public in any way? I know a lot of people had looked at the maps before, and that was comments that I was getting, was people would like to see kind of understand how coverage worked with that. And so if that just went up yesterday, I think it'd be great to have some sort of announcement or some way that people know that changed, if they'd already looked at the maps.
Okay. In addition, as you can see, we also had Matt update the maps. Didn't change the boundaries at all from what you've seen, but just update the maps so they view a little bit better. You can clearly see where the districts are and the boundaries, but the actual boundaries didn't change.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, is Matt ready for his presentation?
We have Jesse with a comment.
Okay, sorry, Jesse. Oh, I see your little hand.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, one thing I would like to ask, or that I left out of my summary, is that another outcome of this meeting will be this district is obligated under the water code to have staggered elections. And so as this board moves toward a particular map outlining its districts or divisions, the board will also have to consider the sequence of future elections. And that will need to be decided, not necessarily today, but certainly at the fourth hearing as well. That's all I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, Director Ringen.
Just so that everybody's all on the same page, board, public, and so on, what is the hard and fast requirements for the maps? I mean, we know it's population as far as how many people, but what are the other items that must be considered when moving those lines around, if we do that?
I think that's part of Matt's presentation. I've asked him to give a kind of an overview of all the criteria that goes into making these boundaries the way they are. And hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. I just want to make sure that everybody understands,
Yeah.
that's all.
And if I may add, when I was digging into this and the California code, even the definition of community of interest, because that is one of them. So he'll elaborate these, Matt will. But it's topography, geography, cohesiveness, integrity and compactness of territory, and community of interest by the division.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you.
Okay, are we ready for Matt?
Ready for Matt?
Matt.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Actually, if I'd have known you were meeting in person, I probably would have been there today, but we'll do it from here. But anyway, Mr. Barton was 100% correct in everything that he said. And just to kind of go over a couple of things. One is the maps that Eddie and Fabian are going to lay out to you today, as Mr. Barton said, are really just starting points. And our objective in terms of these starting points for you was to give you several different options to be able to consider. We're not wed to any of them. These suggestions are simply suggestions as starting points. And as I don't know if it was the chair or Mr. Barton suggested, if you would like to make tweaks to the maps, then say, we like scenario number 2, and we would like to see if this line can move north or south or whatever it is that you want. And we would attempt to do that. In response to the chair's question in regards to members of the public being able to submit maps, however that testimony wants to come into us, whether it be today through public testimony or in writing or email or whatever, we've helped people draw maps that have come on napkins and placemats. And so however people want to give us ideas, and in some cases they simply don't work numbers wise, and they meet our obligation is not to really do subjective analysis of the map, but really is to whether it meets the basic criteria of redistricting. And a great example was one of the directors there suggested that we look at the current board seats for the Board of Supervisors to see if that map could be adopted. Well, that map doesn't work, and we have that on the Google Maps to show that it's first of all, it's not contiguous. One of the districts in the south simply is not contiguous, and it was so under population that wouldn't be a viable map. And so then to segue basically into the criteria, which were asked by another board member for the maps you need to consider today. The one solid criteria that you have that's really not debatable is population equality. And that is that there is a mean. So we take the total population of your area. And as we discussed in a previous meeting, that population total for your district is the prisoner adjusted population that we're required to use under state law. So under those criteria, anyone who's in a correctional facility is assigned back to where it is that they came from, or where they were last incarcerated or arrested, or wherever the last home address. So if you have a facility within your district, that area gets zeroed out. If somebody was arrested from Woodland, where I live, they get reapportioned actually back into Woodland, depending on the specificity of the address that's available to the Department of Corrections. That information is provided to us by the statewide database. And so if somebody were to say, well, Matt, you have a population for Sonora of X, and we think it's X plus 15, the discrepancy is almost always due to a small reallocation of prisoners throughout the state of California that don't necessarily perfectly match up with the census data, but it's not significantly different. And then, so in terms of the criteria of population equality, as I told you before, the total deviation between the smallest district and the largest district can be 10%. So oftentimes we say it's 5% on either side of the mean. That's kind of true. Really what it is if you were to have 4 districts that were at 2% under and 1 district that was 8% over, that total deviation would be 10%. But it's better if you have it narrower for population equality. And so most of the jurisdictions that we work in, they want it to be under 5. And one area where we've worked in recently where a county decided to go larger than that for border, not larger than, but more towards the upper end of that range, was the county of Butte. For those of you who followed the fire in Paradise, they had a really good reason to underpopulate the community of Paradise and make that district smaller, because the county board of supervisors said, hey, there's a bunch of people there who weren't counted in the census. They were gone for a really good reason. Their community burned down. And so they had a district that was slightly under. But if you're going to max out and go toward the higher end of that 10% range towards the top, you should have a really good reason for why you want to do that. But as the chair mentioned earlier, after that criteria, and you don't have a lot of Voting Rights Act considerations in your federal Voting Rights Act considerations within your jurisdiction. So it really comes down to a number of subjective analysis factors for the board. And those are, as mentioned by the board, well, actually contiguity is pretty easy. So that one's not very subjective. The districts either touch and are together or they're not. But in terms of compactness, that can be something that's in the eye of the beholder. And there's a lot of attempts academically to justify whether districts are compact or not, trying to compare how close they become to a circle or a square or whatever it might be. And we can give you those numbers, but compactness is rarely an issue in California. Then the others are communities of interest, and communities of interest are all things to all people, and people have very different communities of interest. You can talk about different ag crops. Where I live, it's about row crop agriculture versus the cattle grazing, but you could have an argument based on types of crops. You could about different school districts together. It can be anything. And so all of those things are we're hoping to hear from the board and the community what in terms of our suggestions to you. Maybe you like some of the maps, maybe you don't like others, and that's fine. We want to be able to try to come up with a map that a majority of the board would like, and we're happy to take whatever direction you might want to give Eddie and Fabian and I to come back, and we'll obviously be taking notes on board comments and public comments about this process and what maps you'd like to see in future meetings. So is that an okay summary, Madam Chair?
That was great. Thank you very much. I really think that's an important explanation of everything that went into for your consideration in drawing these maps. And thank you for explaining about the population, the 10%. That was very helpful. Is there any question for Matt? Yes.
Matt, yeah, I'm looking at the numbers for the different districts and all that, and can you explain how this will make our elections more fair? Because it seems to me like we're slotting smaller groups. A piece of the map actually has the ethnic background percentages, and it seems like if we go from a general election to voting by district, that there's a smaller representation of, minority groups in our county versus being an at-large district where if, and I'm really trying to tread lightly because of, I don't want to say anything that's misinterpreted, but if we have a group of orange that is 10% of our entire general election district, and we go to 5 districts and the 10% then becomes 2% of each of the 5 districts, how does voting by districts make it more fair in our case?
Well, sir, the math you just gave as an example doesn't work. If it's 10% of the total population of the whole county and you divide it into 5 pieces, it's not 2% of each of the 5 districts. It would be potentially, if it was all equally spread out, it would be 10% of each of the 5 divisions.
Well, as I'm looking at the numbers for the district, different districts, they're all reasonably close. And to me, it just seems like we're diluting, ethnicity versus having the whole group as far as representation. Is where I'm at with, this and any of the maps.
Well, I can't really comment to you about how this process makes it more fair. Maybe Mr. Barton or somebody else has comments about the California Voting Rights Act or something else in terms of how that fits. But in terms of drawing the maps, we're trying to draw the maps that comply with the law and meet your communities of interest guidelines on whatever those might be. Mr. Barton, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, sir, but I just thought that's a better question for you than for me.
Yeah, no, I don't see it that way. Thank you for your question, Director Boatwright. I think what would be helpful while you were speaking is I've taken a look. I've printed Mr. Rexroad's presentation, and I was trying to understand which specific, perhaps, map you were concerned with, so that I could see what the concern is. And maybe as a suggestion, if it's all right with you, Director Boatwright, we have Mr. Rexroad start his presentation, and then if you could re-ask your question on a specific map, perhaps.
Well, it was just a generalization of all the maps, Jesse, is the dispersed population within our service district, when we're voting at large, if all of the orange want to vote for the orange candidate versus all of the purple voting for one, and there's 2 seats available, mathematically, the orange, even if they are a lower populace, have a better shot at nominating or getting elected their candidate if it's at large versus split into 5 districts.
May I interrupt here for a second? We voted last year for a variety of reasons to transition to 1 person, 1 vote, instead of 1 person, 2 votes, or 1 person, 3 votes. So today we are discussing the maps, and the way this is divided now is 1 person, 1 vote. So we're not discussing what we discussed last year. We already voted on that. We passed our resolution. We're about, 75, 80% through this process. And if we have comments on these maps, and like for me, I'm very concerned that Jamestown is in one area and Sonora is in one area. These are communities of interest. Perhaps they may not be all ditch customers or all sewer customers. That's not what we're here to look at or splice hairs about ethnicities. We are here to be as fair as we can while we are converting to 1 person, 1 vote. That's what we are transitioning to do. Whether folks like it or not, that is where everybody is going in this state. If you look at a lot of the research, in fact, Folsom is transitioning just like we are. Goleta is a really good example, water district, and how they are looking at their maps. And I think it would be great if you came in here and studied these maps on the wall and really looked at them, because that's really where we are now. We're not, whether this is a good idea or not, that train's already left.
We have Director Murphy with her hand up with a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think because this is a public process, because clearly elected officials have a vested interest on district lines, I don't think this is as I think there is still room to talk about if this is actually achieving the goals that it's meant to achieve. So I just wanted to say that in support of what Director Boatwright was saying. And then just to also make sure that we're welcoming the public into this process, and that if people have big issues with it, they can there is still time to bring those forward. And so I just want to make sure that we're in this public process, that we're really listening to the public, we're really listening to our constituents and the folks who are reliant on the TUD system. And I would just like to also take this opportunity to remind the public that that overlay is on there that people were asking for, which is the usages and users of the district. Because I think that plays a part in it too. But I think it is really important that we're looking at what is the overall goal, what is the overall goal meant to be for going to this 5-district system, and it is meant to be for to have people better represented is the goal. And so if we are seeing that this isn't going to do that, I think that is a very valid thing to bring up. So I just want to say thank you, Director Boatwright. I appreciate what you said. And I think that was an important thing to say at this time.
Appreciate that. And again, just so that we're clear, what we are on is Item number 2, public hearing, board to review new mapping of proposed district-based election boundaries of the electoral districts. That's what is on our agenda, and I would hope that we can stick to that in a positive way and focus on what, in all fairness, nothing's perfect, nothing's perfectly fair, but in transitioning to this process, we will make it together as fair as we can. And so with that, please continue.
Okay.
Well, I have,
Oh,
no objection to, whether this is fairly drawn or not, as far as any of the maps. I'm looking towards the benefit to the, ratepayer. Jamestown, Sonora being in different districts. If a person is voted in from Jamestown, they would tend to have a passion for pushing the district towards, development, rebuilding of infrastructure in Jamestown versus Sonora, and trading off, trying to draw out some of the politics. And point well taken on the way the agenda item is written. So
don't want to violate
go ahead
agreement.
and let it go.
Okay, and I'd be glad to talk with you offline on some really good research that's already been done on just those concerns. Okay, please continue, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman and Board. I think probably best to transition to Eddie at this point, and hopefully Eddie can share his screen and walk through some of the different scenarios, and we can talk about the individual maps as you all saw them a few weeks ago when the day after I completely stepped on myself and told you all about the maps you were going to see, and then had to say just kidding so we could come and do it today. So I did some push-ups for you, Madam Chair. Go ahead, Eddie.
All right, so I'll get started with this. I just want to point out a couple unique aspects in drawing this this map or these draft maps for your communities. One of the things is Matt touched on the prisoner reallocation. It does appear that there is a prison or something of that type in the southern portion of your district. We found in our first attempt at these maps that the southern district was always way underpopulated, and we were having deviations close to 20%. So that is something to consider, that there is a difference in population from what the census put out and what the statewide database put out for the prison population. The other unique thing about this area, this district, is that one of the curious things for us was census blocks. Would typically in the very rural or less populated areas, anywhere in California that we've worked in, you'll see kind of different shapes and larger shaped census blocks. One of the interesting things about this area was that even in some of more populated census blocks, there were kind of interesting shapes that made it a little bit more difficult to draw those kind of direct straight lines between districts that were equal populated. So just wanted to point that out. Again, these are all just drafts, just starting points. Our experience has been that we typically get very minimal feedback from boards until they see kind of a physical map and start to get ideas of where the lines can be drawn. And typically that's when the very productive conversation on where communities of interest are begins. So with that, we'll kind of just go over these basic maps. So in this first one, we have this kind of northeast district taking up this area of your district. We have a deviation. You can see that it's 1.44% over. Very low CVAP populations for most of the groups that are considered. And then we have this District 2, and also the numberings of these are just as a way to identify them in the drafts. They don't necessarily have to be the numbers that you guys decide on for your staggered elections. That's something that can be decided on later. So this southern one, you can see it's negative 4.85% deviation. Then we get into kind of the more where your population is, more of it is concentrated, and so we get smaller districts. So this District 3 is 1.2% over. And then District 4 is 1.82% over. And then District 5 is 0.39% over in population deviation. Is it your guys' preference that we go over each map individually and take questions on them or feedback on them individually, or would you like to go through all of them and then take feedback or questions at the end?
Want to just go through all of them?
I think so. I'd like to.
Yeah, let's just go through all of them.
Director Martin, ask for a hand up for a comment.
Can you also show us that overlay of the uses? The TUD? That'd
So
be-
we have here your Wadham sister boundary and then your sewer system boundary. Would you like them both up or one at a time?
I think one at a time is more useful, but if you can just do that with each of the sets of maps, that would be lovely.
Yep, certainly. So you can see here is the sewer system and then the water system boundary.
Okay. And is it possible when you put both of those, sorry, but when you put, I haven't had a chance to play around with them yet. If you put both of them up, can you tell the difference? Are they slightly different colors? Can you tell the difference between the sewer and the water?
They are not currently. If that's something you would like, we can make that change.
Yeah,
Make
if
it clearer.
you have to do that would be awesome.
Okay, yeah, we can do that right after.
Super, thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem. All right, so we'll move on to draft 2. And I'll start with, so here is your Wadham sister boundary. And then the sewer system boundary. And then for this one, we'll start here. We have District 1, which is 0.5% over for the population deviation. And then we have District 2 here in this central area as well, with 1.3% over population deviation. And then taking up much of the southern portion of the district here, we have District 3, 3.9% under. And then District 4 is back again in kind of a more densely populated area. So we have 1.2% population deviation. And then District 5, again, takes up most of this northeastern area with 1% over in population deviation.
That's map 2, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is draft 2. And with the Wadham system boundary over it again. And then the sewer system. And we'll move on to draft 3. Here it is with your water system boundary on. And then the sewer system. And draft 3 takes a little bit of different approach in this northeastern area. So you can see we kind of split up the large area, but we'll start with District 1 here. So you can see it is 4.43% under for population deviation. And then taking up the northern portion of this eastern part of the district is 2, 1.23% over. And then we zoom back in here for 3, 1.42% over. And 4, is 1.09% over. And then taking up the southern portion of the eastern part of your district is District 5, 0.69% over. And here's your water system boundary over it again. And then the sewer system. And I believe Fabian says he has just updated the colors. So let me refresh the page. There you go. So they're separate colors. So it's a little bit easier to see the difference between them. All right. And that was 3 we just went over. So now we'll move to draft 4. We'll start with the water system boundary, sewer system, and both of them so you can kind of see the difference. And this one, we have District 1 here with 1% deviation above the mean. And then we have District 2 taking up the southern portion, 4.5% under the mean. And then District 3, 1.43% over. District 4, kind of a little bit larger than what we've seen besides draft 3, but not quite as large as it was in draft 3, stretching out a little bit more. 1.22% above. And then District 5, 0.88%. And then here's the water system again. And the sewer system. And then we had the request, as was mentioned, to show the attempt to draw lines based on the supervisor's district. Since your district doesn't take up the whole county, you can see that this District 4 is non-contiguous, it's separated. And you can also see that because of that, because I'm assuming the county takes up much more of this southern portion, there's missing population that would be in this district. It's 42.9% under. District
and
1.
only 4 districts.
And only 4 districts of the county supervisors would be included. 13.3% over. District 2 is 5.6% over. And District 3 would be 9.4% over. You can see this would be, again, non-contiguous, and then particularly with this one, very, very far outside of the population deviation. And those are our drafts, and we can take any questions or feedback on them, any or all of them.
So Eddie, we might want to take a look at those supervisor districts again, because even though that one isn't non-contiguous, I think one of those districts was left off, that area there to the near above Jamestown.
District 5, yeah.
Right. The analysis pretty much stopped when the one district was not contiguous, but we've left off a supervisorial district.
Okay.
Yeah, District 5.
We'll see about, we'll get that added back in when we can.
Well, is there any board director that has any specific questions related to this item?
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Is this related to the maps, Director Murphy?
Yeah, could you pull up the number 2
Mhm.
option? And can you do the sewer and the 2 water boundary things?
Yeah.
And tighten, go out a little bit so I can see the whole thing, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Perfect. A little bit closer. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so I always have clarification questions, right? So on this, I'm looking at it. TUD district boundaries. What does that include besides our, like, why are the district boundaries so large with our system boundaries so small? Is there other stuff that we should be showing on there that we're not showing?
I don't know the specifics to that. I do know that this whole shape is what was provided to us by the Registrar of Voters for Tuolumne County. And then we did notice this discrepancy in the size. And so we did ask them to double check. They confirmed with us that this is right and let us know that they even confirmed with, I think she said tax parcels, the taxing, whoever the taxing boundaries are for TUD.
That's the political boundary of TUD.
Okay, so maybe Don Perkins or somebody on the TUD staff could help illuminate and because maybe there's more we need to be putting on there as far as people within the TUD water system, that there are pieces I think that extend outside of what we're showing with the water and sewer that probably should be shown on the maps as well, so we get a better idea of who all is involved in this. Because I think that what's missing is in this one, in the green district, the one that heads down to Jamestown, I'm wondering if the agriculture users are not represented in that, and then up in the upper area, if the ditch users are maybe not represented.
Director Murphy, this is Eric Johnson. You're correct. The boundaries that are shown are our treated water service area and our wastewater service area. We could create a boundary, but one wasn't readily available yesterday that would depict our raw water users along the ditch system. And you are correct, there are some that would be in that green lower area there extending out. But nevertheless, the TUD service area is still pretty compact, even if we included raw water users. When you look at the overall legal political boundary that's shown, it's not going to extend out that far, but it would extend out a little farther than what you're seeing.
Director Murphy, this is Steve Sheffield, Finance Director, and I think I hear what you're saying from a utility billing perspective. Like Eric said, it's treated water. We have approximately 15,000 total water customers. Less than 600 would be considered ditch. On the sewer side, we only have 6,000. And so throughout our boundaries, there's huge pockets where, like for instance, where I live, I have a septic system and a well, even though I'm within the boundary and I still get to vote. Many of these areas you're going to see where many of them have septic systems rather than that. So I think, from a districting standpoint, they're looking at population within our boundaries, but we have pockets of other agencies like Sonora Water Company as a PUC, they're within our boundaries. There's ones up the hill that are also within the boundaries. So from a districting standpoint, I understand they have to do it from a population base, but it's not going to necessarily directly over tie to our actual customers being served. And that's always been the case. You get to vote on it, whether you're a customer or not. You get to run for an office, whether you're a customer or not. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and let me just explain why I'm asking for these things. And that is, in the earlier conversations, my worry was that by going to dividing this up into the 5 districts, right? That we would have board members that were more interested in one section or another of the system. And my 2 cents is I would like to see the system. I would like to see everyone look at the whole system, and I'd like to have everyone feel in this mapping. Part of my decision-making factor on this will be looking at who is served in that district. I don't want us to have polarized district, that one district is only on a certain type of service and no other, and have a representative that is on the board that is focused on just that portion of the system, because I really want to see the board always taking into account the whole system. And I think that there is a worry for me that if your district only has a certain element of what TUD provides, that you would, as a representative voted in by that group of people, you would be most interested in that part of the system. And that is the part that really worries me about breaking up the thing into the 5 districts. And so that's why I want to see the overlays, so that I can see which of these map sets creates districts where each district has a variety of interests in the TUD system. Does that make sense?
I understand your concern is important to you, but
No,
it's,
I'm just asking if what I said, if you guys understood what I said as far as what my point was.
let me answer it this way, Steve. Even though you have septic, if there's a fire, somebody will come with TUD water and put the fire out, correct?
I'm not aware if it's TUD water. Usually we have a helicopter pulled out of Phoenix Lake.
Right, well, that's TUD water. So one of the things is here, I'm not invalidating you, Director Murphy, but we're here to make it as fair as we can. If you want these overlays, that is your input for water and sewer. Yeah, 600 ditch customers, they're not on there. But at the same time, when you're talking about fire protection, that's the whole county. We're gonna make sure whether you're a TUD customer or not, we're gonna do the best we can to use our water that's available with the fire out. The whole community is gonna benefit. What we're really talking about here is under the obligation of the law and the spirit and the intent of the law, make this as fair as possible. Is it gonna be perfect? We're gonna try. Is it going to negate special interests? Watch Chinatown. I can guarantee you special interests have always been interested in water. So we're making this as fair as we can. Let's put your overlays on here, and then let's see if the community wants to comment on those.
Yeah, I just wanted to state why I was asking for the overlays, and my question was I clear in why I'm asking for the overlays? And this isn't a question to you, Director Balin, necessarily. So the question was, so in looking at the maps, that's one of the things that I am basing my decision off of. And so is it clear of why why I'm asking for this, and does it seem like a reasonable thing that can be done to show myself and others just kind of what the different interests of these and how that changes from map set to map set?
It's clear.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asking.
Director Kearns.
Yeah, Director Murphy, what I think I got out of your comment there was that you were afraid that we were going to get polarized districts, correct?
So what I would like to do when I'm looking at the maps, what I would like to do is I would like to see what TUD is doing in each of these voting areas.
Well, hold on one second. I think I did hear you say something about polarizing districts, correct?
So let me finish my comment and you'll hear it.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
All right.
This is my time. I'm just asking you an easy question, so go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to answer it, but I can only do that if I get to complete my thought. So, so what I would like to see is the different uses so that I can look at them on each of the map sets, right? So that I can see if there are, if it's map set 1, 2, 3, 4, that has a better distribution of our uses within the variety of districts, right? Because I don't want to see it. I don't want to, I'm not going to vote for a map set where the districts all have only one type of water use, or only, you know, like I would like to see the variety of the things we provide in each of the districts. And so that's something that I'm looking for. And with the water and sewer, that was really helpful to put those on. But looking at the big boundary of the TUD district, it's clear that there's pieces of that what we function as, how we deliver things is not on here, because otherwise our voting district wouldn't be this big. So what I'm asking for is for the ability to see those other things as well, so that I can make, and so the public can comment as well on knowing, understanding what services we provide in which of these areas. Because with the mapping, the feedback I've gotten from people is that with the mapping, there wasn't enough information on the maps for people to truly understand why each district, why the boundaries mattered, I guess, is the thing. And so with these overlays, I think it's easier to understand why the boundaries matter. And everybody's going to have a different reason why they want the boundaries in certain places. My personal reason why I will be looking for is I want to see a variety of services provided in each district, because I feel that will hold that elected official more accountable to a larger portion of the district. And that's what I would like to see. And I'm not arguing that everybody should have that same outlook when they're looking at the maps. I'm just saying that's what I would like to see. And that's how I'm going to be assessing my vote. And I'm asking for public input, and I've been getting public input from people. And the most common thing that I've gotten is that they don't have enough information. There wasn't enough information provided to understand what the difference between the boundaries could mean. So I appreciate the extra overlays, but I think that there is probably a need for a couple more things on there.
Go ahead, Director Perkins.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of input as well, and the input I've received is that our communities of interest are very important to us, our historical communities of interest. And when I say that, I mean the communities of Sonora, Columbia, Tuolumne, Twain Harte in the East County, and Jamestown in the West County. And I think that that is, in fact, I believe Director Murphy even mentioned that in her last meeting or whatnot. She made a point there that she hoped that we would stick to our communities and not make political decisions, and I agree with that. I'm paraphrasing your comments there, Director Murphy, and it's not a direct quote, but that's what I got out of it. But, so the point is too that just because our current footprint of our services today is what it is, but it doesn't mean it won't change over time, because as we all know, TUD has been the receptor of many systems over the last decades, many decades since it became in existence, and the companies that the companies that TUD morphed into, Tuolumne Regional Water District and Tuolumne Water System. So there will come a day when one of these other smaller water companies will come to us and they will say, we want to become part of TUD. It's only a matter of time. And so my point is that our footprint will in fact change, and it will not stay the same. And we need to be aware of that. But as far as I'm concerned, my opinion is that we have to keep our communities of interest whole and as sound as possible. And some of these drafts do better jobs than others, in my opinion, and maybe we'll get to that at some point. But I think it's very important that we keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And I agree, the communities of interest are really, each community has its own history and its own story and its own relationship to water, its own particular area along the watershed, along the ditch, because that's where they all sprung up. And I was wondering if we could maybe on these maps put a sheet underneath so members of the public could actually come in here and write some suggestions on here to make another thing available to them, because they're looking at these maps and then they're looking at the details underneath each one, and perhaps then they could write their comments on it. Like I like draft number 4, but I like this part of draft number 3 for division 2, something like that, so that we can kind of get to see what the public's, where they're going. But overwhelmingly, the map's got to comply with the US Constitution and achieve population equality, comply with Federal Voter Riders Act, and that the district should be geographically contiguous. I think Matt's done a great job of that. Local communities of interest, geographical compactness, and they cannot favor or discriminate against an incumbent political candidate or political party. And that's, I'm reading it right out of the thing, and it sounds like that's Matt's business, and he's trying to make these polygons work. And I agree, the more information, the better, if you will, but when it comes down to it, these, like Jeff said, there's a lot of small districts. It's been predicted that if TUD grows, it's going to be growing from taking on more of these little tiny neutral water districts that can't comply with state, with the, the regulations, and so we will be taking those in as I hope getting more ditch customers on, or identifying the ditch for fire protection, or also emergency draft points throughout our whole community, whether you're a TUD customer or not. If the grid goes down, we get some kind of weird cyber hack, people can go get water, flush their toilet. I mean, we're here for the whole community, and I just think that that's part of the overarching thing that we're considering here as well. So any other director have any comments on this?
We have Director Murphy with her hand up for a comment.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so can we put the ditch system, and that's come up in both of your comments, both directors that just spoke. Can we get the ditch system on here? Can we get the agricultural water that's going out too? And I think what we're looking at right now, it doesn't make any sense to speculate what's going to come into the district at this point. If things change drastically, I would think we would go through this process again. And I think that is something that you see happening across the country periodically, is the re-examining of things as things have changed, as populations numbers have changed, which is very possible as usage is changing. But for making these decisions, again, my focus is going to be on making sure that each district has a solid interest in the whole. And so I would like to just as much information as we can put, as we can do without making, the overlays are great because you can take them on or put them off, and that would be great. The other thing that I'm wondering we talked at the beginning of this meeting about that public can comment in these situations, but I don't think it's super clear on how they could submit their comments. So I hear Director Balin saying that they could come into the boardroom and look at these maps, but I think that it'd be useful to have an online way for the public to directly make their comments. So they're all coming to the same place. So it's not like getting sent to the GM and sent to different board members and stuff like that. It'd be great if there was kind of a clearinghouse for that. So do we have that established and I'm just not aware of it?
Matt, you explained earlier how the public could comment. Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. So people can email comments into the board. They can draw maps on our maps, as I think the chair or somebody else suggested. We're happy to take comment any way that they'd like to do that. And they have the opportunity to comment later today, and we'll be taking notes on their comments. And if the board directs us, we will try to come up with maps that reflect those comments. Sometimes the things that folks suggest aren't possible. Like they might say, take the whole center area there and make it one district. Well, that's too many people, but we would try or try to come up with an alternative that meets the spirit of what they asked for, even if we can't meet the letter to the exactly what they asked for. So we're happy to take those comments any way that people want to give them or make them.
Okay, to me, that's again, more nebulous than I'd like to see it for a public comment period. I would like for, as you guys know, I'm used to working for the federal government, and in that we have, public comments come into one place, and then they're looked at and decided if, what can be done and what can't be done. But they come into one place, and what I have seen is, and what I have heard is, it's pretty nebulous where people can and put their comments in. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we could make that process feel more official to me, where they are, instead of each one of the directors getting emails or something like that, or conversations, that people could directly put their comments in to a place that we establish on the website or something like that. Generally, that's what it is with the federal things that I've been involved in. You click and you make your comment there, and all the comments get compiled, and then somebody looks over those comments, and you try to figure out what can be incorporated and what can't, and what makes sense and stuff. But that the public gets that there's a place where the public.
I think we get your point, Director Murphy. Isn't there, aren't these on the web? Aren't these maps on the web?
They are.
All the information is there, but we don't have a place where people can directly we don't have a depository for comments.
Okay, so that's your comment, that we need that on the website for people to put their comment in. People can also write in comments, that's legal. People can also contact somebody like Jeff Perkins and say, hey, Jamestown's really important to me. And obviously you've talked about people contacting you and wanting that information. And that is why we're meeting, is to gather all this input. We're gonna have, 30 more days before we finally decide. And so I worked for the federal government for 40 years, and comment comes in all kinds of ways. And tribal is very different than members of the public. So if we can improve this, that would be wonderful. And if you could talk to staff about how you think that the comments could be improved, that would be great, Director Murphy.
So that's why I'm asking this question in this meeting. And so my question is, can we do that on the website? What would that look like? How will we make the public aware of that? And is that possible?
Staff, can you answer that, please?
I'm sure we could have Lisa Westbrook update our website to have a comment placed, maybe directed to an email, a specific email from Melissa to make their comments related to maps.
Excellent. And then those could get compiled, and then the directors could access those to see what people are.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think it would just be nice for us all, instead of each of us getting comments sent to us, for them to all come to one place, so we could all look at what people are of all the different, the variety. I think it's a good way to make decisions. And I would argue that with the federal government, they do make it very precise when there is a public, when you are putting things out for public comment, there's a very precise process on which comments are accepted. So it's either through the superintendent or through the website portal. So I'd like to see something like that, where then we can all look at all those comments, and because we should be taking those into consideration as we're.
I think you've made your point, Director Murphy. Thank you.
The 5 of us get to vote, and so it's important that the public feels heard through our votes.
Is there any director that would like to make any more comments? No, are we, okay, yeah, Director.
Well, I have studied these maps in detail, taken a lot of time to do it. And I was looking forward to hearing what the public input was today. So we can maybe get to that.
Okay, so Melissa, were any, with that, I will open it up to the public if there's no further comments. Any written comments received?
No written comments were received.
Okay, no written comments were received. Okay, at this time, are there any members of the audience who wish to be heard on this matter as it was agendized? Yes, go ahead.
Hi,
Is it possible to come up to the podium? Thank you. And please introduce yourself for the group. You don't have to.
I don't have to, but I will. I'm Eileen Mannix. I'm on Twain Harte Community Service District, but I'm here as a citizen not representing the board at this time. I would just like to address some of the comments made. If you want members of the public to weigh in on this, do not narrow it to one choice. The public needs as many opportunities to speak to this issue as possible. Please do not only give them one place to comment. The other thing is, there are some maps that Twain Harte would prefer. It's very confusing with TUD and with us. People don't know who they pay their water to. So please include Twain Harte. Do not divide it up in any way. One of the maps, I think it's 3, is not our preferred choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Good. Yes, go ahead.
Mrs. Mannix, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to make it clear, just a clarifying question, you do in fact, when you vote in November, you vote not only for Twain Harte Community Services District Board members, you also vote for TUD directors, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to comment at this time? I don't see anyone in our physical audience, so I can open it up to the Zoom audience now, correct? Okay,
Not at the moment, no.
great. Okay. So if there is nothing further to be presented relating to this item, I now declare the public hearing to be closed. Thank you, everyone. Okay, on to the next item. Thank you, Matt, and your group.
Does the board have any direction for me or my team on different maps or things you might like to see? I don't mean to interrupt, but if we don't get any more direction, we're going to come back with just these maps next time or anything that the public submits for next time. Does the board have one of these maps they like or don't like, or if there are ones they want to veto or whatever? I would request some guidance for my team so we can serve you better.
Director Murphy has her hand up for a comment.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, who would be appropriate on the TUD staff for me to meet with to talk about additional overlays?
Most likely, Engineer Eric Johnson and myself.
Okay, very good. So perhaps I can sort that out with you guys, and we can decide what's appropriate as possible additional overlays. Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, if the board has concerns or has gathered concerns from the public, they can get that to Don to give to you then?
Sure, but I would just to clarify and going back to Mr. Barton's presentation earlier, as I understand this, if the agenda item ends now, we're going to bring back to you at the next meeting all of the maps that you see in front of you now, plus whatever comes in the intervening time, and we wouldn't have narrow it down at all by the next meeting, and that's fine. But that probably, Mr. Barton, don't you think that guarantees a 5th meeting?
It would, yes, it would.
Okay. Well, it seemed, oh, go ahead, Director Kearns.
Well, I'll take a stab at it first. I'm not, I don't see myself ever supporting draft number 2 for starters. And right now, with with no changes, I would say my favorite has to be draft 4. Because it, in my opinion, draft 4 keeps our communities of interest. Like I said earlier, Sonora, Columbia, Tuolumne, Twain Harte, and Jamestown, keeps them as whole as better than any of the other drafts. So if that's what you're looking for, Matt, that's my opinion.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
So the feedback I've been getting from people has been all over the place, that some people like number 2, some people like number 3, some people like number 1. So I think that idea that we're going to allow a longer time for people to really dig into these maps, especially with some new overlays on them. And that we'll look at that and any maps that were submitted by the public at the next meeting, and then we wouldn't be making a decision at that point. I don't think we have enough information from the public. I don't think we've had enough interaction with them, and I don't think we've given them enough information to be choosing a favorite map at this point. So I would like to see us maybe choosing that favorite map out of the next meeting. And I do understand that that ensures a 5th meeting, but I don't think there's any problem with that. 4 is the minimum you can do. I don't think there's any problem with doing 5. And I think from what I've been looking at, that's within the norm.
Yes, Director Perkins.
This question's directed at whoever wants to take a stab at answering it. What's our time frame to get these done so that we have it in time for the November election, just so we know what that is? Anybody want to guess at that?
Most counties are requesting them by mid-April.
Mid-April. Okay.
And our 4th meeting is this second board meeting is in April.
The first meeting.
No, I think it's 30 days from now.
Slated for the second meeting.
It's the second meeting in April. Mm-hmm. So we're having another 30 days.
Melissa just told me, we have to have everything to the county by July.
Okay, all right, that answers my question, thank you.
Could you repeat?
Answer or comment.
Excuse me?
Could Don repeat what he just said? I couldn't hear it. I couldn't understand it.
Melissa just said that the county wants all the information by July.
July. Okay, very good.
That's July 1st or July 31st, or do you know?
She didn't give me a specific date.
Okay, thanks.
Well, and to get back to your question, I looking at these maps, the way they were drawn with population considerations and community of interest considerations, and you guys did a good job, trying keep those things whole. But I like so far maps 3 and 4, and maybe some kind of hybridization. So I'll get you those comments, and we can definitely post, those. We don't want to just make it. I'll give them to Dawn. My comments. Any other board members? Yeah, Director Ringen.
Yeah, like I said, I spent a lot of time looking at these and going over what I had learned online as to what the criteria had to be for each district. And like I said, I was looking forward to hearing input from the public in case it would change my mind. But right now, I also lean towards map 3 or map 4.
All right. Thanks again, Matt, and your team.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and that way, we have a variety of ways that public input will be delivered to you. So maybe we can have some hybridized maps at our next board meeting.
Jesse has his hand up for a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Just would like to point out any sort of collective decision on a map or anything like that is going to have to be decided at a meeting. If the board members want to submit questions or comments to Mr. Rexroad or Don, that's fine, but those comments cannot represent a collective decision. The decision has to be made at a board meeting which map the board wants to go with as far as its preferred outline of the divisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. So with that, let's move on in regular business to item number 3.
Okay, item number 3, operational update on the water and wastewater departments for February 2022.
Good morning, board members and members of the public. Eric Hall, Operations Director. So I'll make this quick. Page 6, there's some pictures of Sonora water treatment plant, and the crews went into the said basin multiple days, and they pumped out all the sludge. And then they did a bunch of critical Band-Aids that were needed on that, and it really improved the water quality and improved the treatment. And they were backwashing, I think every 6 hours for a little while during some of the storms. So that's turned it back, and so it's now once a day. It's working much better, making things much easier for the treatment guys there. Page 7, distribution department, they're ongoing with the normal routine flushing that they do this time of the year. It's necessary, it's required. They're doing a really good job. They're ahead of schedule, which it's good news, especially with what we're seeing for lack of storms. We do it right now because we're not on stored water. You know, water's, I don't want to say we're spilling, but water's flowing freely from Pinecrest and Lyons and Phoenix Lake. So, page 13, courts. It's not great. We're doing everything we can do to keep it going in the right direction. But it had about 769 acre feet in it. It's up, today's readings, it's a little bit higher than that. So we're at 49.8, so 811 acre feet. So Rich, are you on?
Yes.
You have anything to add or want to talk about with courts?
Well, we're doing a little bit of supplementing right now. We're running one of our wells at about 35 GPM. We have another pump at about 40 GPM, and Greenlee at about 100 GPM. So we're putting in as much water as we can, like Eric said, to get courts going in the right direction. And we'll continue to work on it.
We did get a request last week from some of the ranchers down there, and they did what they called the shovel test, which I never heard of before. So they dug up the ground and said, oh boy, it's really, really dry. And they'd never seen it like this. So they asked if we could fire the system up so they could start irrigating. They started irrigating last Friday. Already, it's a month early. I don't know if Dave can remember any time it's been this early, but from Rich, he said it's.
Actually, I do. We irrigated in January once.
Oh, okay.
we got you beat, man. There's no water in the fall.
I'm glad we're not setting a record.
Yeah, that's good. So that's the big reason we're supplementing. And again, water's kind of spilling out of things, so we're trying to move some of that water down into courts to help those guys out the length of the season. So that's all I have, unless anybody has questions. Oh, you're on.
Okay, I got 3 of them. As far as the court situation is going, is that Millville well up and running and being able to help supplement?
Not yet. I know Matt and Lisa are working on an RFP to get a company up here to rehab the well.
Okay, all right. Then just wanted to know how things are going with the Twin Heart Interceptor.
Very good. Rich, if you're still on, I'll let you talk about what you guys have been doing this week and last week.
Yeah, so last week, Monday through Friday, and so far this week, the crews have been out there. They were able to remove one plug valve and siphon right out in front of Phoenix Lake Estates. That was one of the larger siphons, about 3,300 feet long. So quite a large siphon. They cleaned it. They video inspected it. Similar to previous siphons, the pipe looked really good as far as they can tell. I haven't had a chance yet to review the videos, but I will do that this week and kind of compare them to the other ones. But initially, it looks good. So that project was complete. We had planned to be out there all week working on that segment. They finished early, so today they are pulling another plug valve out below Bear Cub. Tomorrow they're planning on pulling another plug valve out, and if we have the materials in stock, we will pull the final plug valve out on Thursday. So hopefully we can get all those out and be done with those, and then concentrating on cleaning and video inspecting the rest of the siphons. We hired a traffic control company, and they've been fabulous out there. As far as protecting the workers, everybody knows that Phoenix Lake Road is not the most enjoyable road to work on out there, but they've made them safe. So the work has been safe, and the public has been safe. So I think everything's going good out there.
Hey, Rich, can you comment a little bit? First of all, to take you guys back in some time a few years ago, we got a bid from an outside contractor to do this work for us. It was nearly $1 million. We just felt like that was just a no-go for us. So we decided to do it in-house. Rich and his team has taken on this project. It's taken several years, and it's not complete. That we're doing great work. But some of the concerns when we were going into this is, what was the condition of the pipe going to be? Is it facing it being subjected to some severe corrosion due to sulfides? In the siphons, was it carrying and holding solids, material that doesn't belong in sewer, and some other, and these plug valves. So Rich, can you comment a little bit more on the condition of the pipe that you're seeing and whether or not it's holding the solids that we feared?
Yeah, so as far as we can tell, it's not holding a bunch of solids. And a lot of that, my feeling has to do with the Schonherr pump plant running, at 340 gallons or so per minute, kind of flushing out that system overnight. So I think that surge of water helps clean the pipe out. As far as the siphons go, as far as we can tell, the pipe looks good. There's no spalding or pieces of pipe missing when they're cleaning the pipes. They're not getting any chunks of AC back or anything like that. The only areas, and I won't say of concern, but the only areas you can tell where maybe the sulfides have gotten to the pipe just a little bit, not a lot, but are the areas like around the ARVs where there's the pipe isn't totally submerged. But again, like I said, according to video, there's not a lot of spalding. They're not pulling back a lot of pipe like we saw below Midland when we initially started doing the interceptors. So yeah, like I said, surprisingly and optimistically, it looks good.
Thank you, Rich.
Got a question for Rich on this. Rich, are the plug valves at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom of the inverted siphons? I forget how they're isolating the siphon.
Yeah, so Director Boatwright, it kind of depends. There's no rhyme or reason. The one that they just did in that long siphon, it was kind of like right in the middle. The one they're working on today is one manhole down from an ARV at Bear Cub. The one they're going to be working on tomorrow, similar. It's right next to an ARV. So there's really no rhyme or reason where they put them.
Now the plug valves that you're pulling out, are you replacing them with just a spool of flow-through section of pipe?
Correct. Yep.
Have you seen any improvement in the overall flow of the Schonherr interceptor?
So as of right now, we don't have a real definitive way of being able to test that as far as having a flow meter on that. We are working on that. The only way that that we'd be able to tell if there's an improvement would be to, open up that bypass valve and let flow directly down there instead of going to effluent pond, and see how much water we can estimate that we're getting down there and see if it's going to back up on Crystal Falls Drive. But we haven't done that yet. I think we want to wait till we get the rest of the plug valves out and then go from there. I can't imagine that the flow hasn't improved because those plug valves were not full port plug valves. So, I mean, they were probably 25% of the pipe. I mean, there was just a serious restriction in there. So.
Excuse me for 1 minute. Director Reagan's not done with his questions, and then Director Perkins is next. But I really appreciate what you're saying. It's really important. So it's just letting you know he's not done with his questioning yet. Okay.
Okay, so that's really good news about that intercept, and it's great that we're able to do it in-house. Because I was on the board when we were discussing that expense, and man, I wasn't too happy about it. My last question is, how are we doing on remote read water meters?
They're doing a very, very good job with that too. They had a little bit of a lull, they were helping out different departments through the storm, but they're catching back up now.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is for the more of those get installed, the more safety for our employees, and as well as speeding up the job, getting it done, and helping save money.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Director Reagan, I don't know if you noticed, but a few months ago, maybe 12 months ago for all I can remember, that we've added a section on the distribution page, which in this case is page 7, where he gives you a breakdown of the percent radio versus the percent manual. And believe it or not, we're at 62% radio now.
Great.
Right on.
Yeah, making great headway.
Great. That's it.
That's it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Okay, Director Kearns?
Yeah, just to follow up to that, that's awesome that we're getting that converted over. We did that in my little water company here 10, 15 years ago, and what a game changer it is. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. And I know you guys know it, but that's a fantastic tool. Those radio read meters are for finding leaks and everything else. Anyway, enough on that. Eric Hall, I was jotting down some notes from the previous item when you started your presentation, so I apologize if you covered this already. But back to Lions in Phoenix. I remember back in December and January, right after we got all the heavy storms that we got early on, I believe it was either you or Glenn Nunnally indicated that we were pretty confident at that time that the reservoirs were going to fill and spill. Is that still the case now?
Yes.
Okay, so even with the 2 months of dry weather we've had,
Yeah,
we're still confident that they're.
Yeah, snowpack has stayed up there. We've been lucky to have the temperatures that we've had, so we're okay. We're watching it. That's our morning conversation, of our different approaches, what we're watching, and different things that we're discussing to do going forward.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Any further comments on County Electric Board?
We have Director Murphy with Green Network coming.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just thought I've got 3 questions that I already had, but off that fill and spill thing. In looking at the Central Sierra and kind of what the snowpack is looking like, it seems, are you guys predicting an early end of spill?
I would guess yes.
Yeah.
It's still very early to predict that.
Yeah, totally. So here are my other questions, and it's just it's kind of for a better understanding of myself and the public with what happens down at Quartz Reservoir. So when we're doing the well water additions, that's non-potable water. I understand that. Does it go through the wastewater system plant first, or does it go directly into Quartz?
It goes through the wastewater plant and then down to courts.
All right. And then the other question that I had is when we're having, and this is based on the fact that we're looking at, with the climate change models of a flashier system, which means the stormwater piece becomes an issue. And I know that Director Boatwright had talked about that at a meeting maybe a year ago about the new wastewater treatment plant and a way to deal with stormwater maybe a little bit better. Are we going to be able to, put stormwater into Quartz Reservoir? Do we have a good way to do that?
Director Murphy, I think that, was that during the tour that we had talked about how stormwater flows through the treatment plant?
Yeah, it might have been. Does it pass the treatment plant or does it go into the treatment plant?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last.
Yeah, I would love a little bit more of an explanation on that, and if we can capture it and get it into Quartz or not. So go for it.
Kind of a combined system or not a combined system?
Yeah, well, we're not a combined system as far as stormwater and wastewater. But during the tour, we may have talked about how stormwater flows through and in and around the treatment plant. And at this point in time, the end answer would be no, there's no way to actually put stormwater directly into Quartz Reservoir.
Okay, thanks. Is that something that we should look at, knowing that there may be, that the additional water for the farmers might be useful, or is that just too big of a thing? That's just not something that we it's on the table of things that we could possibly do.
Well, yes, it could be looked at. A specific site would be needed, but that's actually quite a deviation from the item that we're on right now.
Okay, cool. So then my other thing, and this is also just to understand how things go in and out of Quartz Reservoir, because for me it's connected in my head. I understand if it isn't felt that way. So I can ask if somebody just tells me who to ask these questions from, I can have a private conversation. But the other thing was just kind of like, what is the agreement we have for water going out of Quartz Reservoir? Do we guarantee a certain amount that goes out every year? Is that why we, or is it more just a courtesy kind of thing?
I'll give it a shot. Director Murphy, the way it's set up today, you can certainly reach out to me. Having spent 30 years here, I should have most of the right answers, or at least I can direct you to who gets you the exact answer. So we have about 18 turnouts on the reclamation system. Some are above Quartz and some are below Quartz. And we have two types of agreements. One is an end user agreement where they agree to all the terms and conditions for the use of the water, including how much acreage they have. And in some of those cases, we have a incentive contract where the district over the years have made improvements on their property in exchange for them guaranteeing to use X amount of water per year for a number of years until that expense has been paid off. But I can go into a lot more detail with you offline.
Great, I will do that offline. So thank you for that bit of information. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, Ron, is this related to the agenda item that we're on?
Well, I just wanted to make one little quick comment to Don Perkins.
Okay.
And that is that don't forget to mention why we got involved in that, like a MPD.
I'm aware of all of that. I just don't know how it works. So I'm aware of why we do it and what benefit it is to the district and what benefit it is to the agricultural users. It's a great partnership, but I want to understand better and how it works.
Okay.
All right, is there any member of our audience that would like to comment on Eric's report? Okay, seeing none, is there any member on the Zoom audience?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you. So this is for information only, and that would be great if you guys got together offline and talked about all things Quartz. So let's go to item 4, Sonora Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant Progress Report.
Okay, very good. I believe Jennifer's on, and I'll turn this over to her real quickly. This is your regular monthly installment of what's going on down at the wastewater plant. And if you've driven down the highway, you can see there's been a fair amount of activity down there focused on the clarifiers, the big concrete structures. There's Jennifer. But our anticipation is here in the coming months, you're gonna really see things pick up. Kiewit, our contractor, is gonna bring a lot more staff onto the site. You're gonna see a lot more earthwork, and things are gonna start to take shape as we move into the summer. You will continue to receive your monthly drone link to the drone photography that Gadiel in our department does to give you a good perspective, and we'll continue to do these monthly reports. We'll keep them brief, but we're always open to answer whatever questions you have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I believe it's still morning. Let me share my screen. And hang on. I don't remember how to share my
slideshow.
Yeah, well, there's the slideshow, but last time Steve told me how to share my other screen, so you guys don't get this version.
Go to the top, display settings, swap.
Thank you.
Perfect.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. So this is our March 2022 progress report. So here we are. Here's that map again on what we're working at. Not much has changed as far as our work areas. We are still working in the existing emergency storage basin, item number 12 there, and completing our clarifiers. So last week was a big week for us. We finished our last concrete placement of the clarifier walls. So we have 2 circular clarifiers completed. And then, so the next step that they're going to be moving into here shortly is item number 4 there. It's our north or our south process station. And then following that, they're going to be doing the north process station in a couple weeks as well. They're going to excavate both of those. We have completely dewatered and removed the sludge out of pond 1. And the Kiewit is going to be taking fill material out of this existing emergency storage basin and backfilling this entire pond in. So you're going to see a lot of changes there as far as what the ground looks like in the very, very near future. So this is what we've spent so far, about $6.5 million, all of which is coming out of TUD's funds at first. And then after those funds are exhausted, it goes into the USDA loan. And after that, the grant. So this is roughly 14% of our total budget has been completed or has been spent. Here's our current outlay, where our money has been spent. The only changes from last presentation to this presentation is an increase in cost of construction, special inspections, and engineering. And so this is what I was going over on the previous slide, what the work we've completed to this date in March. So we dewatered pond 1, finished constructing the clarifier walls, started construction of the emergency storage basin, the new basin. Last week, they installed the emergency storage basin under drain line. It's an HDPE line. And they also installed a monitoring manhole that monitors if there's a leak in the liner of the 2 new biolac treatment basins. And the 3-month look ahead, we are going to, well, at the time I put this presentation together, this wasn't done. The emergency under drain line wasn't done, and it is now completed. Dewatering and sludge removal of pond 1 is now completed, and they're going to start mass earthwork starting the 1st of April. Here's some fast facts. 203 completed submittals, 126 reviewed RFIs. We have had 0 safety incidents. The construction completion is 14%, and we're on budget and slightly ahead of schedule. Before I get into these pictures, I was going to share one other thing, a couple other things. So Eric mentioned that we're going to be ramping up here shortly. And so this is a nice graph of man hours that Hewitt provided, and you can see we're here, almost here. So come April, this project really is going to start taking off. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So they have it separated out by discipline. So we're going to be seeing a lot of different varieties of crews out there, really ramping up here within the next month. And then another graph that I thought was pretty neat was this is what they projected the cost of the project each month, what it would be. And you can see April here, it's really going to start picking up as far as pay requests go, the amount of work that they're doing. Okay, let me go back to my presentation.
So Jennifer, I see that this is Director Kearns, that deep purple there down on your legend, it's AG Electric Crew.
Mm-hmm. Find that again.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I don't see it. I have too many windows open. That's my problem. Okay. I am not seeing it now.
Coming up, I see. So that's, I guess that makes sense then. You're going to be tying all that, all the SCADA and all that stuff together.
Correct. So a lot of electrical in the buildings. Yeah, running all the wires, the SCADA, everything. So it looks like they have a lot of electric crew man hours happening at that time. Toward the back end, they're going to get everything SCADA hooked up to the filter used, the chlorine contact basin, the clarifiers, every process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that slide. That's
yeah. I really like this graph as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments for Jennifer?
Oh, well, okay. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll finish this up. So these are, I always like to provide a few pictures because a picture says 1,000 words. So this is the concrete wall placement. We've seen a photo similar to this already. So I won't spend too much time on that one. The middle photo is the rebar cage that goes around the clarifiers. The inside form is installed. And this box right here is the effluent box. There's a pipe underneath this box that will carry the effluent down to the filter units. And then a picture of the sludge removal of the lower drying beds. We have 6 drying beds, 3 of which that are closest to the ponds have been sludge removed and have already been demoed as of last week.
Right. Stop talking over the background noise, Jennifer. Just keep talking, talk louder and louder.
Okay. This is a picture of a pipe fuser. So there's we use HDPE line. You can see it right here in this middle picture. The line goes from this manhole in it. It comes from the 2 new ponds that the biological treatment basins, and it's going to go into this manhole. And then we also have another line that runs parallel. You don't see that trench dug yet, but it runs alongside this trench that you see. And that one comes from our new emergency storage basin. So there's that. And then an aerial shot of the treatment plant. And I've got 2 other photos that I think you guys might like, we can share them easy enough. I think I'll just share my whole screen. So this is the plant from not too long ago. And what is this? I'm just trying to get all my ducks in a row.
And I should just say to the board, you know, we're open to changes in format for this presentation. You know, it's been fairly consistent because there was a lot of time spent on the clarifiers, but if you guys have a particular interest, and obviously we can schedule a field trip at the mid construction as well, but we don't want this to be long, but we don't want it to be too short. It is a $42 million project, but we know the board has busy, you know, agendas, so we're going to try to cater it. But if there's anything in particular, let us know.
Yeah, so these are just the last two pictures. So you've seen this one before on the old drone photo, and you can see that pond 2 here was drained somewhat, and the drying beds were still intact. And then here's this other photo of what it looks like now. They've actually already started backfilling in the second pond to make room for the new emergency storage basin. And you can see where they've already taken out removed the sludge out of the drying beds. And in this picture, we almost have 2 completed clarifiers with just these 2 walls. And as of right now, the clarifiers are completed. So I think that was it. That's all I had to share. You guys have any questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Jennifer, how well is the intermixing going on between new construction interfering with the operation of the existing wastewater treatment plant? Is everything going smooth there?
Yeah, I would say that it doesn't seem to be interfering at all. Everyone seems to be working together very well. The staff, TUD staff, has been so accommodating. They're letting Kiewit kind of get in and do what they need to do. Kiewit's also been very accommodating. If they have something that's going to impact either our operations or something, you know, if they're going to be using some of the roads throughout the site for concrete or deliveries, they always let our staff know. And so far, TUD staff's been great. When Kiewit needed the water to de-water pond 2, our staff figured that out switched over their operations to where we can move the water into pond 1, and then we had to move it back to pond 2 to de-water pond 1. And anyway, our staff's been absolutely great. It's been pretty seamless so far, knock on wood.
All right, very good.
Good question. Any other director have comments for Jennifer? Okay, great. Well, this is really informative, and Eric, this is wonderful information, and actually it's really great to be able to all of us look at it together and you know, take it in together. So thanks for keeping us apprised of what's going on out there. Good. Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So again, this was an informational only item. And again, Jennifer and Don are available if the board has something that they thought about after this meeting and you'd like to talk to them about. So with that, is there any member of our audience that would like to comment on Jennifer's presentation? Seeing no member of our audience, is there anyone in our Zoom audience that would like to comment?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, well again, thank you, that was great. So at this point, we will move into staff reports.
I'll be really brief. I have one, and not just because Schonherr was here, but I did attend, I had it written down before you guys shut up. I did attend their meeting on the 9th, and it was a great meeting with a couple of great points, but one of the ones that struck me as personally my favorite was their discussion about their sewer line replacement project. It's a $3 to $4 million project. I'm not sure where they're at as far as funding and all that goes, but this really hits home for us. It's mutually beneficial for us. So if you don't know, they have a sewer collection system, and all of their effluent goes to our treatment plant, Schonherr wastewater treatment plant. And in periods back when it used to rain frequently, they would have a significant amount of inflow from storm water into their sewer systems, which impact our operations at Schonherr, and causes all kinds of emergencies. And so all I'm just saying is Schonherr has been very responsive to us and to our needs. And I've seen some of the projects that they're planning on replacing, and I know that system pretty well. I used to work there and run those systems, and I agree with it. Anyway, thank you for your working on that. So appreciate it. That's all I have.
Thank you. On that note, we're having a public hearing tomorrow. You're all invited, and it's about addressing our progress.
Great.
It's all by Zoom tomorrow, hopefully for the last time.
Okay.
Anybody? Yeah, it's 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, special meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, great partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, thank you.
We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Dawn, anything else?
That's it for me. And who else is somebody else? I know Lisa Westbrook and Matt have an update.
I wanted to, just real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So leading into that, hi everyone, nice to see you. Abby Parkon, Administrative Services Director. So, you know, I like to brag on staff. That's mostly what my staff reports are all about. So today I do want to brag on a couple of staff members who have been working really hard on grants. And so I will let them make a big announcement, but I do have Lisa Westbrook. She's online, as well as Matt Nolte, to talk about a really awesome news that we got from the DWR yesterday. So I'll let Lisa take it away.
Hello, board members and public. Yesterday we were announced from the Department of Water Resources. They were announcing their second phase for the Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Grant Program. And I'm proud to announce that TUD did get awarded a grant of $2.85 million to put in the Mount Provo water transmission and intertie to benefit the communities of Ponderosa Hills and the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indian. So very exciting. The only match we have for that is with the district engineering putting in their time for $123,000. So it's pretty amazing that we could get a grant that large without any large match. So very, very excited about that. We also received a wonderful letter of support from the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians, because this will benefit them as well. So Matt, did you want to add anything about the project itself?
I sure can. Probably for the benefit of the crowd and maybe some of the board, I was going to give a brief project overview. We will be installing approximately 14,000 lineal feet of 8-inch C900 main line that will connect the Confidence Meadowbrook water system, which is fed currently by the Upper Basin Lakewood Water Treatment Plant, and will be fed in the future by the new Sierra Pines Regional Water Treatment Plant. This will connect with the Ponderosa water system. This will allow the consolidation of the Ponderosa water treatment plant, which was built in the 1960s and 1970s. In addition, it allowed for the future consolidation of 4 tanks and 5 booster stations. Some of the benefits are the reduction in operation, maintenance, and fiscal burden associated with running the antiquated facilities. Also, we are going to be installing 10+ hydrants to increase fire resiliency through the Mount Provo area with this project. And finally, this project will help to provide needed capacity that will allow for future development in the community of Ponderosa Hills and the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. And with that, the tribe has been working hard to secure funding for infrastructure improvements additionally to this project. And I believe they've acquired some funding to install 10,000 feet of new main line to increase their fire flow in the Tuolumne Rancheria area. And our project helps to provide that added supply and capacity needed for that fire flow.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lisa. I'm telling you, this is great news. This is just the news I needed to hear yesterday morning. It just made my day. I mean, Matt and Lisa worked, together really hard on this project for many, many, many months to get it to where it was ready for this grant opportunity. I know they worked with the engineering department on concept plans, and this is really the groundwork, the tentacles that will bridge the gap between this regional plant and those lower systems, try to, in an effort to, work on our consolidation efforts, right? Which is one of the major missions of this district that was formed 30 years ago. So you're seeing some real work being done. So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it.
And it's all gravity.
All gravity. Turn off 5 booster pumps. That's right. Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
just wanted to add just one more note. We are working on a press release that we'll be putting up on the website and sending out, and I'm hoping to work with the tribe on doing a joint press release on this together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. That's great. Sounds good to hear good news. And it's just been a long, it's just been it's great news when we can get, increase our sense of fire safety wherever. It all benefits, especially in the upper area where we've got a lot of, pine beetle kill and whatnot. It's just so important to be able to, we're all in it together. So that's it. Yeah, very good. All righty, any other staff reports? Okay, I'm seeing some heads nod no, all right, I think we're good. I'll just check on our Zoom. Corey, anyone, any staff?
Not at the moment, no.
Comment? Okay. Any public want to comment on Lisa's wonderful news? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to the director's communications reports. Who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
And then your next one. Okay.
I'll be quick. Just wanted to report that on the 12th, March 12th, I attended, on behalf of TUD, I attended the Two Care Dinner, annual Two Care Dinner. Thank you for allowing me to go. And I know you were there, Barbara, although we didn't get a chance to chat. I saw you from across the room. Very good function there. Had a great speaker. Talked about some of the fires up north and whatnot, and a lot of lessons to be learned there. So I appreciate it, being able to represent TUD there. Also, I've had several phone calls with our general manager, Don Perkins, and not that that's really worthy of a report, other than I just want to say that I appreciate it, Don, that you're always willing to take our calls, and you always have the information readily available. If you don't, you get right back on it and you can get it to us. And I just wanted to thank you publicly for that. So I appreciate it. You're welcome. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Were you next?
Okay.
Or David Bowler? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, so on 3/16, attended the Tuolumne Stanislaus Urban Water Advisory Committee meeting, and the only thing that I will say that was out of the ordinary was that our TUD staff, Eric Johnson and Trevor Cowden, gave a really good in-depth project presentation about the Sonora water treatment plant modernization, and there was a lot of good information passed out about that, and it's now most likely going to be put into our plan to when we start to look for grant money and stuff like that. And then on 3/17 and 3/18, attended the Mountain Counties Water Resource Association legislative meetings. The first one was the chairman of the legislative committee, which is me and Rick Lind, who's the vice chair, and we met with the new executive director. And I'll make this really quick. There'll be a lot more on this later on, but where we're going is this is a whole new revamp of what the legislative committee is all about, what we're supposed to be doing, and to make it it's something I've been pushing for a number of years. I wanted to make sure that the Mountain County's board of directors were given the information that they need to do the job that they're tasked with. So we're moving right along, and the 18th was what's left of the legislative committee, and we all put our input into the documents, so it'll be coming down the pike here pretty quick. That's it for me.
Thank you. Director Boatright.
Thank you, Madam President. Last week I attended the LAFCO workshop for Tuolumne Tuolumne City Sanitary District, the Lighting District in Tuolumne, and Parks. It was a workshop, so it was basically the information on progress that they've been making towards consolidating those three districts and combining as one. I feel that it'd be good for them out there with what they're doing, but one of the insights that meeting gave me was through LAFCO, the latent powers that are associated with a newly formed district can be brought into play right then. One of the latent powers for what is potentially the new special service district out there is the library. And by having it listed under the LAFCO, it means that the district doesn't have to go back through a LAFCO full joining of special districts because the district has actually got a latent power can be activated and gone onto. But what that brought into my mind was, I don't know what the latent powers were that were applied for during Tuolumne Utilities District's formation with TRWD and TWS. And it may be worthwhile checking out to just have the knowledge of what was there that, you know, potentially done. And I don't know where that would go from there. I just thought that might be interesting information to have out there. Very good meeting. The formation of the special districts moving forward with good progress.
I think that's, you brought up an excellent question to find out. I know there's a reason we're called utility. I think they were looking at that, but yeah, I'd be interested in that too. And just a question for you, it was the incentive to sort of consolidate, and I know Schonherr consolidated, they had the little, you know, the cemetery and the fire and the et cetera and rec, and then it just made sense, you know, to be in a special district, excuse me, a community services district. What was the incentive for consolidation?
You know, that goes more back towards the, you know, history, and I think Director Ringen may have a little bit more insight there. But it's a consolidation of resources for the lighting and for the sanitary district and the park services. And definitely the boundary for the newly formed special district will be a lot larger out there than just the sanitary district and lighting district.
Interesting.
So,
yes, go ahead.
John Ferriani has been pushing this for a long time, and he's going to be the person you probably want to get a hold of, Don, if you want additional information like Director Boatright's talking about. He's and Dave Anders was also deep involved in that. One question for you, Director Boatright. Unfortunately, the day of the reclamation luncheon, which is 11:30 in the morning, is also the day LAFCO meets here at 1:30. And I don't know whether you were aware of that or not, but it's a special meeting that I think Pete Campa was responsible for and Groveland Community Services. And if I could, I would be here to be in the audience because I'm very interested in what's going to happen out there at Groveland. They have been they've got these huge projects going in, and just that little 2-lane road to get out. If there's a fire out there, I don't know how those people are gonna be able to get out. That's number one. Number two is they're being tasked with providing fire protection. I don't know how they're gonna be able to do it. So,
Certainly, if you would like to, kind of trade places or trade representation for that meeting, I did not realize that the reclamation and laughter meeting had a conflict.
yeah. Well, I don't know whether it will. We got 2 hours, so maybe. Yeah. And I don't wanna take over your spot. I just thought I'd ask.
That to be continued.
Yeah.
Anything else, Director Boatright?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Well, I too, just like Director Kearns, went to the two-peer dinner. It was very well attended. Just sat with some very old friends, in the ranching community. It was really quite wonderful. And they've been at this a long time for stewardship and educating the whole community on what our natural resources mean to us in the state of California. So it was great. Let's see. So, okay, the two-pair dinner, then mountain counties, we're getting a good response for some board vacancies. And so that's moving right along. We're gonna be meeting April 1st as an exec group in person up in Placerville. And then we're gonna do some strategic planning in June. So that's rolling along. I also wanted to commend at least 2 board members for attending the CSDA legislative days. And our brethren and Schonherr are also attending. We are stronger together, and certainly when it comes to big agenda items like the acquisition. So if our folks can get together and discuss some Congress people we would like to talk to, however that works, that would be really cool. So I believe it's Director. This is, excuse me, Gary.
Will alcohol be involved?
Gary's
Maybe not on our side. Gary's
not going, just so you know. Okay, just, yeah, okay. Eileen's going, and Director Murphy's going, and Director Rainey's going. So, yeah, the more we can help advocate for each other's issues and our county's issues, that'd be terrific. So with that, I have nothing further to report. Excuse me?
Lisa?
Yes.
Director Murphy.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Director Murphy.
Yeah, so in the last couple of weeks, it's just been great to have had 2 field trips with John. One going up to see the tank that we lost, and got up there before it was, I believe that's been all cleaned up at this point. But it was pretty fascinating to see that, and to see how the district recovered from that so quickly. It was an amazing feat. So well done to everyone on the TUD staff that was part of that, of getting water restored so quickly and figuring out how to navigate around that. And great that you have those plans, on deck for when things happen. And the second piece was just taking a little bit of a tour of some understanding the historic ditch system a little bit better, and kind of I'm looking forward to hearing more of what we do to make sure we're keeping up the ditch system, and making sure that we're having effective water transfer through it. So that was also a great another field trip to go walk part of the ditch, and talk about that system. And I'm looking forward to the legislative days. I think that'll be a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you. I agree that it's really neat to go down to the Capitol and talk to our legislator. If we're lucky, usually get an A, but it's good enough. It's great. Well, good. Okay, is there any other director wishes to add before we go into closed session? Okay, then that will conclude this portion of our meeting. I want to thank our audience for attending, and that's great. And we shall read, before we go into closed session, Melissa will read the item that we will then.
Item A, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property APN 085-050-001 et al. Agency negotiators Don Perkins, Jesse Barton, and Tom Johnson. Other party to negotiations, Mike Schonherr, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, under negotiation, price and terms of payment.
Thank you. So with that, and then before I close off, how does this work? I mean, we don't virtually go anywhere, or do we? Do we go into the little room?
We have some options. So we can stay in here if the audience, the wait club is sticking around. Or we can leave. So
We've had all the sleep we can say.
we could probably stay in here. If not, we can move the TV into the conference room.
All righty.
We're about 15 minutes.
So let's take a 15-minute recess, and I want to thank everybody, and then we will come back and do this. Okay. Did you get that, Jesse? 15-minute recess.
Yes, 15 minutes. I'll set a timer. Thank you.
Yeah. What's that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, with that, we are reconvening back into open session, and we are going to report that there is no reportable action at this time. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 10 minutes